Hey there, friends. My name is Jim, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about Omicron and the government's response to the coming surge that we're going to have going on, along with a couple of the peripheral issues along with that. So let's get started with this article. Uh, Biden now says there is no federal solution to the COVID crisis. Would have given out tests quicker if Omicron surge was expected. Now, none of us could have expected the government to know that people are going to get sick in winter, but beyond that, President Biden said Monday that he'd have gone harder and quicker to distribute COVID-19 tests if he had known the Omicron variant was going to cause record high rates of new infections, moments after telling a group of state governors that there is no federal solution to the crisis. Early in the virtual meeting with members of the National Governors Association, Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson urged Biden to not let federal solutions stand in the way of state solutions, and added that the president's promise last week to make 500 million COVID tests available for direct order by Americans beginning next month was great, but obviously that dries up the supply chain for solutions that we might offer. Quoting Biden, "Look, there is no federal solution," the president agreed when the time came for him to speak. "This gets solved at a state level, and it ultimately gets down to where the rubber meets the road, and that's where the patient is in need of help or preventing the need for help." This may have came to as a little bit of a surprise to those of us who have been paying attention, because states' rights often are completely overlooked for the federal government's controls. For instance, if we take a little look over to today's news, Biden said that if medical team advises him, he'll issue domestic travel vaccine requirement. Come on, Hill. Shut up. Okay. So, again, the day after there's no federal solution for this, which he, of course, got pilloried for in the conservative media or whatever, President Biden said Tuesday he would impose a mandate that Americans be vaccinated against COVID-19 to travel domestically if his medical team recommends it. What that basically is saying is if Fauci says so, domestic air travel is going to require a vaccine. This is at a time when all of the air companies are basically begging Biden to stop the mask mandates because they've got enough, they're losing enough business over that and dealing with enough viral videos going out there. Speaking of viral videos, considering of the federal government are the federal government has been making recommendations ever since March of 2020, and the states have been following them. You remember when Cuomo put all of the COVID patients into the nursing homes just last year, which resulted in tens of thousands of old people dying? His excuse was, oh, well, that's what the recommendations from the CDC and from the federal government were. These are the kind of recommendations they're talking about when they say that when he gets a recommendation from the medical team, he may halt travel domestically for the unvaccinated. These are powers that the federal government was not supposed to have. They never should have ceded these powers to the federal government. And at the very beginning of this, when they had the 15 days to slow the spread, they should have been like, no, the federal government can't tell us to do that. We'll deal with this at a state level and gone through the courts. However, the federal government, people like Biden, know that they can go out and just say something by fiat, and people will listen to them. So say somebody like Cuomo goes out and says, hey, or let's say Bill de Blasio, the mayor of New York City up until very recently, goes out and says, hey, we're not going to have any outdoor dining. Well, guess what? There's a lot of those kind of things, or say mask mandates, things like that. Those kind of things can't just be put in diktat by the mayor or the governor or whoever. It has to be voted legislatively, and then if the vote passes, then you deal with it. But these people know that they can just make these kind of quote-unquote recommendations. They're really just dictatorial, they're just saying it. They're just saying, now you have to wear masks in businesses. And then businesses start enforcing it. And then eventually somebody comes up and goes, no, F this, I don't want to wear a mask, I'm taking you to court. Goes to court, gets thrown out in court, the court says, oh, well, clearly they can't just do this by mandate, so this has to be a legislative thing. The mask mandate or vaccine mandate or whatever gets thrown out. But that's not what they're worried about. That gave them this window of time, maybe a month to a few months before somebody sued and it works its way through the courts, where their diktat will be listened to, where they will get their bit of gratification for being able to go out and tell Joe Blow, this is what you're supposed to do, and they listen to it. And do you know what that leads to? that leads to situations like this. From @GoodBlackDude. 5-year-old child gets swarmed and removed from restaurant by the overzealous NYPD for failing to show proof of vaccination against COVID-19. I don't even really want to show this. Let me just show you the beginning of it so you know that it exists and you know that it's real and that this is an actual thing.
She just basically saying that she can't serve. Otherwise, if you're not going to pay for it, you have the card. But you don't have it, then you have to leave. And if not,
this pans out. Look at all these officers to kick a, what is it, looks like a interracial family. Ooh, that's not good for you, New York. Out of a eating establishment for the dire crime of not bringing the child's papers in. And as the cop is saying now, you're going to be trespassing if you don't leave. Get on out of here, little 5-year-old.
You came in with a jacket?
Now, this is the kind of stuff that the conspiracy theorists, this is the kind of stuff that I was talking about last year. When you put these mandates in, they're going to be followed. And if you don't think there's a cop in your neighborhood that's going to follow these mandates and tell you what to do, then you have a wrong idea of the cops. And this is the entire reason that we need to, the whole conservative movement needs to stop this whole back to blue nonsense. Because guess what? When those governors decide to take that mandate and push it onto something like climate change, since they've already shown that they can just make these kind of mandates, or maybe taking away your guns, they say it, it happens, who's going to enforce it? These are the people that are going to enforce it. And when you back the blue just unchangingly, and you see like the George Floyd tapes or something, and your first response is, oh, the cops were doing right, that is a bad first response to have. Because often, and increasingly more often since the defund the police movement, police have become much more brutal, much more quick to violence, and much more quick to lethality. Because prior to the all cops are bad guys and the defund the police movement, if you were a cop, you generally got respected. You might get spit on a little bit by some members of society, maybe generally druggies and criminals, but most people are like, hey, cop, good for you. Now police are generally seen as nothing but oppressors and negative influences on whatever community that they're in. Now, that can be true, especially for large cities. What this does is if you instill the idea that police are inherently bad people become police. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And the more that we back the blue unseeingly, or the more, I've never done that, but the more that the conservative movement just backs the blue, no matter what happens, these are the kind of scenarios that we get in. These are the people that we're dealing with. The people like this are the people who are going to come to your home and take your guns, okay? These are the people that are going to do that. And if you don't believe me, I don't know what to tell you. They're about to arrest a kid. They said they're going to arrest him if he doesn't leave because they'll be trespassing. There was a whole group of people out of Burger King in New York City. They all went into protest. None of them had their vax papers. They all got arrested. Now, of course, you could say that's a protest and they were meant to do civil disobedience, but it's only civil disobedience if you have the police there to arrest them. You think the people at the Burger King really gave a shit if these people wore masks or not? No. You think this restaurant really cares that there's a kid in there that doesn't have his papers? No. It's about the enforcers. Of course, there's probably some Karen there who called the police and blah, blah, blah. But it's the police's job to go, no, that's not an emergency. This is stupid. But with Biden making this announcement, prior to the announcement he made today, when he was saying there was no federal solution, along with the fact that Omicron is showing up to be much, much less severe than normal, this may be what gets us out of this crisis. And I'll tell you, the smartest thing that Biden could do, the very smartest thing that Biden could do if he wanted to seem like a competent leader and wanted to settle in his legacy because his people are going to be the ones writing the history books, all he has to do is go, all right, guys, well, we're going to see a surge in cases, but luckily, due to our, make up something. Due to our, masking and whatever, we were able to force the COVID to become less deadly. And now we're going to have a lot of Omicron cases, but it's basically the cold, so stop worrying about it. I'm Joe Biden, and I stopped the pandemic. We can stop wearing masks, we can stop all these silly things, and if you get COVID, you know what, don't worry about it. It's like the cold. Problem is, now you've got people like this one here, Sarah Allen at MSS Sarah, whatever. From a friend, also a New York City teacher with pre-K child too young to be vaccinated. Kids in pre-K and kindergarten are still inexplicably not included in school testing, though this age group makes a sizable percentage of NYC COVID hospitalizations. A lot of stressed families today. And this is text message from a friend who is apparently a teacher, if you trust this person. She won't turn 5 until May, and as you know, pre-K isn't tested at all. It feels like we're sending her in to get sick. Doesn't just feel like it, it's likely to happen, and we don't have a choice. I can't stop thinking about how the unvaccinated kids are the ones who are getting hospitalized, and then in all caps, why won't they do something? These kind of people are the people who are going to take this chance away from us, because as I read in that previous article, Biden decided in his latest speech to start a website where you could go and get a test. There's going to be 500 million tests sent, that any American can access. Normally, that sounds like kind of a good thing, but the problem with this in relative to Omicron is the fact that Omicron is so mild that anyone with the sniffles is going to start freaking out and thinking that they have COVID. Now, maybe they do, but then you test them, they freak out, they go to the hospital. All these people going in the hospital, freaking out because they have COVID, getting turned away, that's going to be called hospital overflowing. You're going to see all these, you're going to see these rates skyrocket. You're going to see the numbers of people who are infected with COVID be higher numbers than ever before, even at the beginning of the pandemic prior to the vaccines. And of course, they're not going to put that quite together, but they will start showing you the case numbers. The case numbers are what's going to start showing up if they don't do what I said they do, and they don't take this as the victory lap that they should. They're going to start showing you the case totals, and as the case totals go up, they're not going to show you the deaths or the hospitalizations as much because case totals. Because everybody with their sniffles is going to have Omicron. Omicron is 70 times more transmissible than Delta. Everybody got Delta, so 70 times everybody's going to get Omicron. You see how they do this? You see how they twist this in your head? It's gotten from the point where people were in 2019, end of 2019, beginning of 2020, there were groups of people saying, it's just the flu, bro. That was the joke. It's just the flu, bro. And you would get banned from social media for saying it's just the flu, bro. Now, they've gotten it into people's heads that COVID isn't just a flu. No, it's not just a flu. It's not just a flu. So that even when it actually mutates into a form that is less deadly than the flu, now you can't just think of it as a flu. It's stuck in your head as this incredible thing that you need to keep thinking about. And the more the news talks about it, the more you have these kind of people, the more of this you're going to deal with. Omicron has a chance to kill the golden goose for them. It has the chance that everybody will take this and realize that it's just a common cold and go back to normal. But there are people who are bought in. There are people who have already gotten the vaccine, have already done the lockdowns, have lost their jobs or changed their jobs, have gone to home. You know, there's people who have upended their lives over this, and when you say, oh, well, now it's just a cold, people won't accept that. They can't have that cognitive dissonance going in their head, and then you end up with this kind of crap. Now, with that said, there's some people who are changing the way the news cycle has gone. Here's from Jennifer Rubin, the quote-unquote conservative. As we recognize that COVID-19 is not a deadly or even severe disease for the vast majority of responsible Americans, we can stop agonizing over cases and focus on those who are hospitalized or at risk of dying. This kind of thing makes me think that they're going to go more towards the Joseph Biden saved the country, let's all have a parade thing, which, fine, I'll give him all the freaking, credit in the world that he doesn't deserve if he stops this stuff. Whatever. I don't care who gets the credit, just take it, And then you also have CNN saying that masks don't work. Now, this is, of course, talking specifically about cloth masks, or basically anything below an N95. People have been saying this for 2 years now, too, and CNN is just catching on because they're trying to shift the narrative onto just focus on this because they realize that people are souring on the idea of lockdowns. They're not going to be able to get their lockdowns through when people are just getting the sniffles. Now, when people are really, really scared they might die, that's one thing, but now that we've had a year and a half of this, it's more people are realizing they shouldn't be freaking out about this, and of course, the news machine has to kind of take that turn to compensate for the general mood of the nation, such as this.
Cloth masks are not appropriate for this pandemic. It's not appropriate for Omicron. It was not appropriate for Delta, Alpha, or any of the previous variants either, because we're dealing with something that's airborne.
This is what we've been saying this entire time. like something like 65% of all the air that you breathe out goes out the sides of the masks. Anything but a sealed N95 isn't going to do anything, and it may actually be deleterious. There are 52 studies on the NIH website that talk about masks and how they are not, how anything below an N95 is not effective, even in places like hospitals or in surgical theaters. They don't work for stopping viruses. There are 25 other articles on the NIH website that talk about the deleterious effects of wearing masks. How if it's dirty, you keep touching it, you keep getting schmutz, as Fauci put it, all over it. It actually can be detrimental to your health to breathe that in all day. I mean, of course, we're talking marginally. It's not like it's going to kill you outright. But when we're talking about a marginal effectiveness of protecting you from COVID, it's all a moot point. And on top of that, remember, this is all meant to move us into a digital identity, to get us used to the digital ID thing. Now, first it's going to be, we need to know who's vaccinated, unvaccinated, so that they can get into shops. You know what's really easy? Just hold out your phone, they'll scan it. If you're vaxxed, you're good. You're unvaxxed, you're not. Whatever. It'll just be easier. They get your COVID vax onto there. Maybe a few months later, why don't you add... we'll just add a functionality in this for, punching you've already got your social security number in there, you've already got your vaccination status. Why don't you start adding, your benefits? Let's put your disability benefits on there. You can get it all on one app. It'll be so much easier. Just put your ID on there too. Put your credit card on there. Put all your information on there. And this is happening much faster than I thought it would from Leon Paul at L3ONX. I don't know how to pronounce that. Leonx. Okay. Breaking. NHS, which is the health services for the UK, app used for COVID domestic and travel passes, now collects data on mental health, social circumstances, political opinions, lifestyle, alleged criminal convictions, and will be used as identity document for right to work and right to rent. Let's take a look at these. So this is from the NHS's page on their delightful little app that they've got. So it will also carry it'll have information relating to the individual's physical or mental health condition, information relating to the family of the individual, and the individual's lifestyle and social circumstances. Information which relates to the ethnic origin of the individual. Now, those of you who think the government is undeniably, systemically, functionally racist, I don't know why you'd want them to constantly have your ethnic information unless you want them to target you. Police are always killing black folk. Why would you want them to know you're black? They could target your house. Information relating to genetic/biometric details or a process to uniquely identify an individual. This is when the app asks you for your fingerprint or your retina scan so that only you can access it. Now, they say, this is a further safety feature, but you gotta remember, in order to keep that safety feature, they're going to have a database with your fingerprint or your retina scan or your facial recognition or whatever. That's all biometric data, which of course they want because they can use that to track you. And in the bottom here, criminal convictions or alleged criminal behavior. Now let's go on to the next page. Data we process. Description of data processed. Data held only on the app on your phone will include... Now, before I even start reading this, how many times have we heard that data is only being kept on your device or in this area or on this area, and it's been hacked or proven to be on separate servers? If you don't know, that happens all the time. That's where all these privacy concerns come from. If you ever get an email that says, we need you to change your password. Now, that's not exactly the same. They're saying it's only going to hold this data on your phone, but the app has access to both the servers. So there's no reason that they couldn't just, apart from the user licensing agreement, which they can change at a whim. So, data held only on the app on your phone will include data concerning health, such as your COVID-19 test result and your isolation status. Well, we decided to give that up when we got the app to these British people. Venue details held only on your phone might be indicative of other special categories of data. However, these details are only stored in your app. The summary or count included in the analytical data set does not include these details. This is, again, reiterating the same thing from the top. This is only held on your phone. We'll never know this stuff. I mean, it's just attached to an app that's connected to our servers, but we promise, pinky swear, double dog, we're never going to touch this. A venue may indicate racial or ethnic origin, political opinions, religious or philosophical beliefs, trade union membership, data concerning a natural person's sex life or sexual orientation. I mean, this is the kind of scenario we've gotten ourselves into, and now that we've opened the door that tiny bit to allow, really it's the corporations, but we're allowing the government to mandate that we need the corporations for their data use processing. It's going to lead us directly into a digital identification, and in 5 years, you're not even going to remember that this COVID pass started as a COVID pass. You're going to be like, oh, that's just my thing that I have to show somebody before I rent a house, or the thing that I have to show somebody before I go in a hotel, or the thing that I have to show somebody before I go into a corner store, maybe? I don't know. We'll see. All I know is that Aadhaar in India is the digital identity program that was helped develop by Bill Gates, and there have been women who have been denied their rations based on the fact that they weren't able to put their identity correctly into the system, and starved to death as a benefit of that, as a consequence of that, sorry. So, I mean, I guess it depends on how many old ladies you're willing to kill in order to make your society exist, but that is their prerogative, I suppose. I mean, they've never been ones to care about that before. Now, all of this said, I just want to leave you with one last little thing, and before Snopes fact checks me, this was from before the vaccines were out. This was a speech... I'm sorry, a meeting that Fauci was having with Mark Zuckerberg, of all people, last year, talking about vaccines and talking about the fact that there needs to be extensive long-term safety data and constant updates and knowing and controls and experiments to make sure that this is safe. Let's take a little listen. Sorry about the archive link, it was just hard to find.
This would not be the first time, if it happened, that a vaccine that looked good in initial safety actually made people worse. There was the history of the respiratory syncytial virus vaccine in children, which paradoxically made the children worse. One of the HIV vaccines that we tested several years ago actually made individuals more likely to get infected.
Poopsie doopsie. Oop. And then Pfizer decided to destroy its placebo arm of the study. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I mean, Pfizer, when they had their study that they sent to people like Dr. Fauci in order to get the emergency use authorization, had two groups of people that they wanted to test the vaccine on. They had, they wanted to test the vaccine on people. So they created two groups, the vaccinated arm of the study and the unvaccinated arm of the study. After 6 months, they vaccinated the unvaccinated arm of the study. So, screw all the long-term data. Now, if they all get sick, could have been this, could have been something else. We're not sure. We're not going to be able to track the information because they destroyed the control of the experiment. They want everybody to get vaccinated. Maybe because if everybody's vaccinated, then who knows where this strange new sickness came from. Now, that's just me, thinking out loud. I don't question Mr. Fauci. He's a very, very important, strong, good man. He's one of our betters. I don't question him. So, in summary, it looks like there's two different ways that they may be about to go with this. The smart way to go would be to take credit for this. Take credit, say that the cases are going to turn up a bunch, but and just spin some fake science. You've done that plenty of times, so just do it again. Just say, because of the lockdowns and because of the vaccinations and because of this, that, and the other, Omicron, COVID has now become less severe, and Biden and Fauci did it. Ooh, and Fauci can have his Nobel Prize for stopping a pandemic in its path. Everybody can go home and we can stop this. Or they may go the other way. If they go the other way and decide that COVID is still this super dangerous disease, and they do what they want about stopping domestic air travel, unless you're vaccinated, then this could just keep going on for years and years and years. But, and here's a little thing that's going to make me sound crazy, I think that they may be ready for Chapter 2 of the psyop. Everybody's tired of COVID. COVID's, it's getting old. We're not so scared of it anymore. Just let people out of our houses. Everybody's sick of it. It's making the Democrats look bad. And the blue states are doing worse than the red states. And New York now has 25% of all COVID cases in the nation. So, I'm thinking they're going to move on to aliens next. Now, that may be a bold statement, but NASA just convened 24 theologians and to have them make a study on how people would react in a religious sense if alien life were to be known to the average person. Now, I don't know what my belief is in whether or not I believe that there's probably aliens out there if space is and all that, all their science is right. There's probably aliens out there. I don't think they'll ever reach Earth. I think it's too far. So, in my opinion, if the government really wanted to have a one world government system, wanted us to all fall in line and do everything for the greater good of humanity, sure would be nice if like an alien thing started. That sure would be convenient, wouldn't it? But no. Anyways, I'll save that for another video. Project Bluebeam. I'll do that in a day or so. Anyways, you guys, that's my 2 cents on the whole subject. I hope you feel free to like, share, subscribe, do all that good jazz. I'm a small YouTube channel. If anybody ever feels like donating, it's always in the links below. I'd love to do this full time. But the best thing you can do regardless is share, because information like this needs to be shared so that we're all on the same page, so that we're all voting and knowing the same way, so that we have less people... Less people like this crazy lady. Less people that are so scared that they'll send their 5-year-old and the 5-year-old will get cold. Why do you think they aren't testing pre-K? Yeah, it's because everybody's going to be sick, but they get over it in less than a day if you're... Anyways. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe, and you guys have a wonderful evening.